So I know Sharlene already let the cat out of the bag a little bit, but the trip that we had went on in the fall was to Maine.
Maine. That's
I don't know if they had a lighthouse like this.
Would have been nice if they did, but probably not.
Yeah.
Maybe it's more like...
I don't know. I feel like this trip was probably better without the kids. So me and Sharlene were able to ditch our kids and just did a couple's getaway. Ready to load up?
Lobsters. Yes.
Let's see the lobsters.
Lobsters.
Maine was a blast. So we're gonna tell you our story of where we all went, what we saw, what went well, what didn't go so well.
See a bunch of lighthouses.
Yeah, we saw a bunch of lighthouses.
Yeah.
Just a disclaimer.
So we got dropped off. We took a flight to Maine.
Enjoy your flight.
So cut out some of that driving that we normally are used to.
Yeah, and we got in pretty good time. However, when we got there was like one guy that showed up to work at the car rental for whatever reason. And I was actually, I think I was the last person to get like a normal, somewhat normal car. And then whoever was after me had to get like pickup trucks because they didn't have enough like cars checked in. Made it. In our rental car, ready to explore. So we're gonna get rolling. We got a tight day today. Charlene's gonna be tired.
Where are we headed anyway?
So that got us a little delayed. So we had to cut out a few things on our first day. And then
people were getting hangry. By
people were getting hangry.
By people, I mean you or me.
Yeah, so our first stop was actually McDonald's.
Yeah, and so there is a really cool story about that McDonald's. So the whole story with that McDonald's is that the town of Freeport, which is where we are now, didn't like the idea of having a McDonald's coming into their town because it didn't fit in with the aesthetic. So what they did instead was McDonald's bought an old house and then turned it into a McDonald's. So on the inside it looks pretty typical, but on the outside it just looks like a really old house. So it fits pretty well with some of the aesthetic here. What do you think, Joe?
Oh yeah. Yep.
One fun fact is it is the only McDonald's in the US without the golden arches. Yeah.
Better fact check that one.
Check Wikipedia, I don't know.
Need some McDonald's. Extra special.
Here you go.
After the McDonald's, we were kind of planning to go to Portland, but since we were running short on time and I had a particular spot I wanted to be for sunset, we ended up just driving through Portland, which was nice. And then right across the bay or river from Portland is a kind of a smaller lighthouse. It's called Bug Lighthouse. The lighthouse was pretty cool, but then also you had a really nice view of Portland from that side of the river.
Yeah, that was a beautiful lighthouse. Definitely a good kickoff to our tour.
Didn't the ship go by too? It was probably a kind of a tour ship, but is my guess, because it had like the sails and stuff. Yeah, so that was our first lighthouse. And by the way, how many lighthouses do you guys think we saw on this trip?
That's a good question. 40?
No, you're saying 40. Wow. How many do you think?
28.
28.
I don't know.
What? I can't even remember what I guessed. Maybe 22? I think it was probably in the high 20s.
That's it? But moving on, where do we go next?
Yeah, so from that lighthouse, we went to Cape Elizabeth. So Cape Elizabeth has 2 lighthouses.
Now you guys can start counting.
They're both very beautiful lighthouses, but unfortunately they're on like private property. So what I did is I just took my drone and kind of...
drone.
Yep. So it was really nice to kind of get up there with the new drone and see these lighthouses from the sky. And even more cool, in my opinion, was like Cape Elizabeth is very rocky, and looking down with the blue water kind of crashing into the shore was like...
Right. I didn't really see what kind of footage Joe was getting. And I'm just looking at our schedule and like, how are we gonna make this all work? And we already skipped a bunch of stuff that we wanted to do. So I was like, let's go, let's go, let's go. But then when now, like after we've done the trip and I looked at the footage, I understand exactly why Joe could not leave.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. We did end up leaving, and then, so I don't remember if it was after that, but at some point, the wind got real crazy.
When I checked the radar, it looks like a storm is brewing.
We even saw like a little, not a tornado, but like one of those whirlwinds in like the parking lot. I was like, wow, like hopefully the rest of our day isn't ruined.
Yeah.
And it did end up kind of blowing over, but we saw a few instances where whole trees were like knocked down over the road, and I think some power lines got knocked down.
Sure you still want to go?
So anyways, we had to drive through a little bit of crummy weather. From there, we went out and we went to a place called the Wedding Cake House.
Yes. There's a story behind it. So I'm gonna tell you. Actually read it. Is this somebody's actual house, Joe?
I have no idea.
So the Wedding Cake House was once called the most photographed house in Maine. Legend developed that George Bourne, who built the house, made it look like a wedding cake to make up for not taking his bride on a proper honeymoon. Now, do you think that's true?
It's probably a legend.
Legend, exactly. So he spent most of his life adding to it, so that's why you see all the different adornments and creative pieces all over the house.
Yeah, it looked pretty cool.
All right, moving on. Where do we go next?
So we went to something called the Wiggly Bridge.
Yes, the Wiggly Bridge. I've got a story for that. So, another legend. Legend has it that it was named by a Girl Scout that said, it wiggles as they walk over it. And so that's why they call it the Wiggly Bridge.
Yeah.
And it was built in the 1930s, and it is the smallest pedestrian suspension bridge in America.
I believe it. Because I didn't even know that fact when we were going to it, because it was kind of like our furthest point south that we ever went.
Why don't you show them how clear
And
the water is over there?
It's cool, but I don't think we probably would have went out of our way as much as we did to see it.
Yeah.
In hindsight.
We jumped around a bit, and
especially since we were kind of like tight on our time.
yeah.
Yeah, so we kind of ran down, wiggled it, and then got back in our car and made it to our last stop for the night before sunset. Unfortunately, that storm that rolled through didn't quite clear, so we didn't really get a nice show for the sunset, but it was a nice place to kind of sit out, you know, We sat there, I think, until it got dark.
Yeah.
There's a couple people like doing scuba diving nearby, which is kind of cool, seeing their lights on at night.
Yeah. It's a beautiful night to be out. A little bit chilly, but like a lot of people were out. Didn't get the sunset that we wanted, but the atmosphere was amazing, and we were definitely exhausted by the end of that.
Yeah, one of the cool things about that lighthouse is it's on like an island, but it's not way out there, so they actually have this like pulley system to go from land to the island,
right.
Which was kind of a unique thing.
Right, yeah, I kind of was wondering about how that worked.
Yeah, but it definitely was probably easier than swimming or taking a boat.
Yeah.
That lighthouse was a little ways away, so we decided to stay in Bangor, which is somewhat central between a lot of the places we were planning to go for an affordable price. In hindsight, I feel like maybe we would have stayed either closer to Portland or closer to Arcadia.
Yeah. How'd you feel about your first day, Joel?
Felt pretty good. Storm rolled through pretty fast, but then another one looked like it was blocking the sunset, unfortunately, but it's still a cool lighthouse.
Are you ready to call it a night? Or you still
I'm ready to call it a night.
It was raining a lot though.
Oh yeah, it did.
There was that. Yeah.
Some more rain moved in. It's not fun driving in the dark with rain pouring down, but we made it back safe.
Right. Man. Yeah. And then it was the next morning. What was our first stop?
Yeah, so next morning we were making our way to Bar Harbor. Yay. So Bar Harbor is one of the more touristy areas in Maine. But on our way, it was super foggy. Very foggy out this morning. Hopefully our boat tour isn't skunked.
Like,
yeah, we had a boat tour booked.
So we're on our way to Bar Harbor, and man, it's foggy out. We thought it would kind of start burning off with the sun, but you can see it's just getting thicker and thicker.
Right up until we almost got to Bar Harbor, it was really dense, and then as we got to Bar Harbor, it cleared up.
So it was so foggy, and Joe and I were worried that we wouldn't be able to see all the sights on our boat tour, but now the sun is shining.
Like, just all of a sudden it was cleared.
Yeah.
And so like, oh, great. And so we got there a little bit early, started to explore Bar Harbor a little bit.
This morning's fog, I didn't think we would have such nice weather, but it's really turning out to be a nice day.
Made it down to the water here in Bar Harbor. We're about to jump on one of these boats to see some lighthouses.
Yay!
You know, went down, got in line for the boat tour. Hopped on the boat.
We found good seats and we're so excited. Yeah, I'm super excited to check out some of these views. So far, everything's really been pretty from the shore, so it'll be exciting to see once we get on the water. We're like, pumped, let's go.
Yeah,
Joe's got his camera ready.
We sat on the lower deck. Because it's a pretty big boat, so I felt like it was up high enough, but I sat in the back. I figured, you know, whatever they talk about, I can kind of get footage of it as we're passing by it.
You happy that we came to Maine?
Yep, very beautiful scenery. Can't wait to get out on the water. I feel like it's taking forever.
So we were set up real good, and then we took off.
About whales, you can see them on this trip.
Here we go. you know, there's some beautiful homes on the coast. So like
Yeah,
they were
really
telling us
big.
about the history of the area.
Like real old money, you know, old money American, you know, millionaires. And it was interesting seeing those homes that have been around for many, many years.
Yeah, and then as we were kind of getting out to get to our first lighthouse stop, before we got there, we hit some fog and we're like, oh boy. It got really cold. And we're like, oh, we're just gonna, you know, kind of keep going out and see if we
Avoid all this fog.
kept going. And it got thicker and thicker. And then I went out. I was like, oh, I'm gonna just kind of go to the front of the boat because I hadn't done that before. So I went down to the front of the boat, and man, it was windy.
Walk to the front of the boat, and it's super windy and misty. Fog is really thick.
So I had Sharlene come down with me.
Yeah, and oh yeah, so bad out there. Hey,
Yeah,
Sharlene.
come on down, Sharlene.
So, hey, I figured we weren't gonna see boats, so Joe said, hey, it's really cool, woohoo, which is probably not the truth now that I think about it. But anyway, I made my way to the front. Thankfully, I wore a long dress, not a short dress, otherwise I would have had a Marilyn Monroe moment, which
I think you kind of did a little bit.
I had those hands like glued down to my legs, making sure nothing like that was happening. I'm like, I better hold on to this thing. I'm trying to follow the board here.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those boats that can zoom along pretty fast, so
Yeah.
that's why it was pretty windy.
Wind and it was
then
shaky, like, man, good thing I wasn't wearing heels either. I would have slipped in.
But yeah, my lens and the camera too, just instant like fog.
Wow, camera. I don't know if you can even see me, but we're at the front of the boat now, Sharlene.
Wild. Yeah, so we didn't get too much footage, but that nice
Yeah,
fun
and
shot.
so we went a ways out, and then they're like, "Yep, it's not gonna happen."
So we're heading back the way we came, and the fog's kind of behind us now, but we didn't get to see any lighthouses yet.
I know, we're
Zero.
gonna see if we can talk to them and get another trip tomorrow.
Yeah.
And so they turned around, and we're like, "Oh man, like
Now what?
now what?" But they assured us like, "No worries, like since you guys didn't get to see what you paid for to see, we're gonna refund your money." So we're like, "Oh, okay, great." But we're actually like super bummed because we wanted to see lighthouses. Like it was our
Yeah.
first like
Excursion.
on the boat. We love doing boat rides. Like we do boat rides on a lot of our trips.
Yeah.
And so we're like, man, like now what are we gonna do? So we got back.
Then we did some more exploring of Bar Harbor. It's such a cute town. There's some steaming pots down there. There must be some lobsters getting cooked. What Maine is famous for. Nice shots.
Yeah, a lot of little shops. You can get all your souvenirs there. A lot of little restaurants, some really cool looking restaurants.
And our boat tour guide did mention something, lobster ice cream.
Yeah.
Now, I don't eat lobster, haven't eaten it in a long time for a story I don't really want to go into today. It's a funny story, but. We went to try, and he said just do the sample. It's very buttery, actually. Tastes pretty good.
Tastes pretty good. You would eat a whole cone?
No. It's pretty heavy. I actually thought it was pretty good.
Alright, lobster ice cream, here we go.
Describe the flavor.
Cold, definitely buttery. Not as much flavor as I was thinking though.
You thought it'd be real fishy, huh?
Not fishy, but a little more buttery.
Yeah.
It's pretty good, but
1 out of 10.
5, right in the middle.
Yeah, it was alright.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't even think you gave it a super high rating.
How much would you rate the lobster ice cream?
8 out of 10, actually.
8 out of 10.
Yeah.
Wow.
It wasn't weird.
You gave it a higher rating than I did, but
Yeah.
it had the buttery flavor, but
Yeah.
definitely not good enough for getting a whole
No. Definitely
cone.
not. So after all that chasing around, and it was actually getting pretty hot, so we wanted to get changed because we knew we were going to do some hiking. Refueling.
It just so happened to be almost the right time for the tides to be low enough where we could walk across the land bridge to Bar Island.
So we're on Bridge Street. We're walking down to the bay, and it's about an hour and a half before low tide, so we're hoping to see some dry land to walk over to Bar Island.
So like during most of the day, it's underwater, but then there's a little bit of time during low tide. I don't know if it's like a couple hours where you can walk on land basically over to this island,
Right.
which is part of Acadia National Park.
Before the water comes up, so you
You
time it right.
got to make sure you go, early in the low tide and then do your hike or whatever, and then come back so that you don't get stuck over there overnight.
So we just made it to the beginning of the path over to Bar Island. It's dry so far, but from a distance I could see some people wading across to the other side, so we'll see if it's dry by the time we get over there.
We actually went probably a tad early because it wasn't completely land. There was like probably a 10 or 15 foot strip of water, but it was fairly shallow, so we just took our shoes off like everybody else and waded across, which was actually nice and refreshing.
What happened, Sharlene?
Looks like we're gonna have to wade in the water. Should have worn my sandals. I'm ready.
You get the shoes all tied up?
Yep.
Is the water cold?
Actually not too bad, considering I'm used to the Lake Michigan cold.
And then put our shoes back on because the rocks were really sharp.
Oh yeah, those rocks weren't feeling very good.
Yeah. And so once we got over to Bar Island, we just kind of looked at the views.
You know what they call this?
What do they call it?
Teeter tot. About 30 minutes ago, this was all covered in water, and now it's dry. You can see a little bit of water here yet, but it's crazy how fast the tide goes up and down.
We planned to get lunch at a pizza place.
And
And
we
it was
thought it
so
would
hot.
be so easy. I mean, pizza. But what happened, and just so we can put a disclaimer on this one before Joe gets into it, the one that I wanted to go to wasn't open. So we ended up.
Yeah, we ended up walking. I looked at the map, but I didn't like plug it in to see how many minutes it said to walk. And I don't think it was that far, but it was so hot.
Right.
And we were kind of exhausted from doing all the walking we already did, and it was uphill kind of getting out of there.
Right.
So we get through the town, kind of the main town, and I'm like, oh, it's only a couple more blocks. We get another block, and we're like, almost there. Yeah, it's like a couple more yet. And we finally get there.
Sharlene picked a pizza place, and it was all Jamaicans inside. Out of all the places in Bar Harbor.
I know how to find my people. Joe was shocked that it was Jamaican pizza place. So they serve Jamaican food and pizza. And Joe's like, what are the odds that you, of course, find this place in Bar Harbor?
Yeah, for those of you that don't know, Sharlene is Jamaican.
Yes, yes, I'm Jamaican. So it was funny. I got to, you know, get some good pizza. Pizza was good, and we were.
Yeah,
hungry.
I mean,
yeah.
Any pizza at that point was good pizza. Like we were starving. I think we had to stop and grab some drinks on the walk back because
Longest walk of my life. Thankfully, we got some Gatorade, and we're gonna enjoy our pizza really quick and head over to Acadia.
we gobbled that pizza down, drank a couple Gatorades, and then we made our way into Acadia. And we didn't do our homework because, well, I shouldn't say that. I did my homework in like the places I all wanted to see and when I wanted to see it. But if you've ever been there, you'll know that if you go clockwise around, it's much, much easier because there's a lot of one-way roads.
Yes.
And the one-way roads that are kind of along the coast go clockwise. But no, we went counterclockwise.
Yeah. So Acadia National Park.
So the first few
clockwise.
Yeah, the first few stops, like it doesn't matter, it's two-way traffic. But when you get along the coast, only one way around, and then. But anyways, so we stopped at our first little hike.
Just made our way into Acadia National Park, doing our first hike to the Bubble Rock.
After that pizza walk, this is nothing.
Ready for some more stairs?
No.
I asked Sharlene if she knew what Bubble Rock was.
I know, wouldn't that be a really good question considering that's where we're hiking to? No idea where we're going.
And what did you say? I think she said
A spring with bubbles and a rock. I saw a hawk all the way down there.
So we get all the way up to the top and saw the sign for it, and
I don't see a spring. I don't see a rock.
I'm standing on a rock.
Where is it?
Must be the Bubble Rock. This feels really good. Nice breeze. So I'm thinking he doesn't even know where he's going.
I'm going to Bubble Rock.
But you said maybe.
You'll know it when you see it.
That's what they all say. Until it's too late. See it?
I see Bubble Rock. Do you see it?
The tip. That thing jutting out. Aha.
Aha. Now you see Bubble Rock.
I've discovered the Bubble Rock. That is not what I pictured. Cool.
and then oh, I see it. You see it? So no. And then we finally saw it. So basically what it is just a big boulder on top of a hill that's kind of hanging off. And you can try to push it off.
All right, push it off.
Looked like it moved a little bit.
But
Where's the
it ain't
bubble
going
in
nowhere.
that? That's what threw me off.
I don't know. It's like a bubble.
It's round.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's round like a bubble.
Okay. The best part was us trying to take cool pictures, and I think they turned out pretty good, actually.
After we visited Bubble Rock for a little while, we hiked back down to the car. I'm the Billy Goat Gruff.
Running down this thing. Me, on the other hand, slow and steady horse.
Whoa. We drove a little bit further down to a place called Jordan Pond. So it's a, I don't know if it's a pond or a lake, but it's a body of water.
Because
it's called Jordan Pond. It's pretty big. I don't know how big a pond can be before it becomes a lake. Pretty calm water, and then there's like two little hills in the distance that reflected on the water. So we spent a little time there, hanging out, real peaceful. There's a restaurant that you can go to not too far from there, or you can keep hiking or go on a bike trail. Very beautiful. So you could spend the whole day hiking or biking.
A lot of people actually rented electric bikes, which I think would be a fun thing if you had more time. And they had horseback riding too, right?
No, so
What was it?
yeah, not horseback riding. They had horse-drawn
Carriages, yes.
carriages, wagons, horse-drawn vehicles. And so we actually stopped there too. It was pretty cool seeing the horses come out of the barn and go down the trail carrying people. So if you don't do the horse ride, like you could just go to the stables and watch people get on. And that's what we did. And then we actually drove to one of the bridges because it's really picturesque. Like the bridges are old stone bridges, so just even driving through that area, very beautiful. So after that, we went along the coast, and again, like, should have went the other way around at this point, but we stopped at a bunch of different overlooks. Some were up higher, some were right down on like a beach. A lot of different rock formations, cliffs. We stopped at one place where we kind of hiked over the rocks a little bit. So we hiked down here, and there's, looks like there's a little cave thing over there. During low tide, there's kind of like a cave that you could go into. Your hands are getting sweaty. It's scary.
It's just water, rocks. When Joe's this close to the edge, makes me very, very nervous.
Unfortunately, it was high tide when we
Yeah, it was high
saw
tide.
that
Joe
one.
was like, hey, and I'm like, no.
Yeah.
We're not thinking.
So I was a little disappointed that
Yeah.
we missed that one. And then we went to Thunder Hole, which
Famous Oh, Thunder boy. Hole.
we were really anticipating this one. We've done something similar like in Hawaii where the water basically goes underneath and then gushes out of a hole and it shoots up like a geyser.
Yes.
And we got there, we saw people kind of leaving and some people coming, and we get down there and tons of people, right? The whole place, and there's particular times in the
Yes.
tide that you're supposed to hit it, so we kind of did our homework on that,
We made
got
it,
there at the
yeah.
right time, and unfortunately the water was a little bit too calm.
Right.
So I would describe it as like a sputtering toilet. Like it just
like a broken toilet.
like a broken toilet. Like it's just kind of like spritzed out here and there.
Everybody was making jokes. Like I just like it was interesting hearing the conversations, what everybody was saying about it, and you know, because it's like everyone was so disappointed, so they're just making the best of it.
Yeah, and some people were there way before us, like hours waiting, and
nothing happened.
I asked like, "Oh, did it do any better when you got there earlier?" And they're like, "Nope."
The best we saw was a picture from somebody's phone.
Yeah, it was a little better, but nothing like the pictures that we saw online where it basically shot up to like the top levels.
Right.
Nothing like that.
Nothing like that.
So what do you think about the Thunder Hole? Thumbs down.
We moved on, went to another overlook where it was kind of facing towards where the sunset would be. There was some other people down there doing a photo shoot, so like, all right, like we're ready to go.
After the dud with the Thunder Hole, what do you think our chances of a good sunset are?
We did see a little color, so maybe it might be okay odds.
And there was a little bit of color, and then when we got down there, it's faded. Like again, like some clouds got on the horizon, and
Yeah.
it wasn't bad, but it wasn't good. Like, it was really nice, like real peaceful to sit along the water, listen to the waves hitting the shores.
As a color grid, we were running through the fields. You had flowers in your hand. We were all chasing phantoms. Baby, you would always stay and I'd grab on. Yeah, well, if you're scared of the dark, let the rundown street lights be your stars. And then picture swings in the bar, and I'll swing with you. Sing it, sing it with me. Sing it with me. And we'll go howling at the moon. It's no use living if you're already dead. It's not worth saying if it's already said.
And that's where we ended our
Night.
second day.
We were exhausted. I mean, I have a limited recollection of those stops because I was probably that tired at that point.
And to add on to that, the next day we woke up at some ungodly hour.
We're up at 3:30 in the morning. Good old 3:30 in the
got it.
morning. And I really was like, are we really, you know, waking up that early after these couple days here?
Yeah, even the forecast was kind of iffy. You know, like, you know what? We're on vacation. We want to do this, so let's do it. So
Our luck was so bad. I'm like, it's probably going to be bad again. So are you sure about this? And yeah, we made it out.
Chances for the sunrise, I'm not sure how good they are, but we're gonna go anyway and check it out.
yeah, we made it out the door. And note, pitch black out.
Here's the time.
Time is. Hit the road. There was a little bit of fog on the way, and I guess we should say where we were heading.
Cadillac Mountain.
So we made it to the entrance. There's definitely some other people that woke up early to get up to the top of this mountain for sunrise.
Yeah, so people rave about going up there for sunrise, and it's basically the highest point on Acadia National Park. So you got to actually reserve ahead of time your time to go in. You can't just go in without reserving a time. Some parts of the year are probably a little better than others.
There's very limited parking, so
That's exactly it.
Right.
So you probably could park down below and hike up, but it'd take you a while.
yes.
So it's definitely recommended to, and like if you're going for sunrise, like do you want to hike up in pitch black? Probably not. So we get up there, got a pretty good parking spot.
Sure gets wild trying to get those first front spots.
And like just people kept filling in, and we waited a little bit to get out of the car because it was very cold up there.
Yes.
And even though we prepared pretty well.
I had those
feel like
layers. I did bring my layers because I know I get cold, but man, those layers weren't working.
Yeah, but it was pretty cool. So we finally got out, and people were just like scattered all over the rocky surface of this hill or mountain. I guess it's a mountain, Cadillac Mountain.
Yeah.
And we found our spot a little bit further down and waited for sunrise. It took a little while because when it's cold, it just feels like, man, like when is this gonna happen?
So what do you think? You gonna get a good show or what?
Everybody's staying pretty quiet.
Staying pretty quiet.
Waiting on the show to start.
Yeah, it's looking pretty promising so far.
We saw the light get brighter and brighter, and you could see like down the Bar Harbor and the little islands down there. Very picturesque. And then the sun came up, and it was like, it wasn't like clouded over, so that was a bonus. But I don't know, I would give it like a 5 for sunrise. It wasn't anything like that spectacular. So a lot of people started filing out,
People
leaving.
left right away.
They were
As
cold.
soon as the sun came up, they were like, we're out of here, zooming out the
Yeah,
mountain.
and it just kept leaving, and we stuck around. I was doing some time lapse, and I gotta be honest, like, I was shocked. After a little while, the sun kind of like dipped behind some clouds, and then all of a sudden it looked like the sun was coming up again. And what was happening is the sun was like reflecting off of the water, and I feel like the colors and everything were like 10 times better than the actual sunrise. And I was like, man, people really missed out.
Yeah, so the sun actually rose a while ago, but the reflection off the water is creating a better sunrise than the actual sunrise.
Yeah, so I was super excited. Sharlene's like, can we go? So we did end up heading down, but yeah, I'd say like don't always write things off. Like things never are exactly what you think they're gonna be. So just one of those lessons where we stuck around a little bit longer and got rewarded for it. So yeah, so super exhausted, but we kind of put our heads together and we said, you know what? Let's try to do the boat tour again, the one that got fogged out. And we're like, worst case scenario, if it's no good, we can... Actually, we knew it wasn't going to be any good. It was going to be good because we had the view of the whole
Did we know
harbor.
it was really going to be good?
We knew, well, we figured it was going to be good. There was a little bit of fog down
Yeah.
below, but a lot of it had moved out.
Yeah.
So we kind of could see that it was pretty clear
Right.
and good chance for
Us to make it out
us
there.
to make it. The only thing we didn't know was if the boat was going to be booked out.
Right, and we heard a big cruise ship was coming that day.
So we
as
got
well.
real nervous. So we're
Yeah.
like, call as soon as the minute it opened, we call her like, oh, is there any spots? And they're like, yeah, we don't have the computer up and running yet. Just come down when the office opens and
we'll get you in there.
yeah, try to fit you in if there's space. So we basically got down there a little early, sat in the car until it was time, ran in there, and there was plenty of space. So thankfully we got our tickets.
I got a nap in.
Charlene got a nap in.
Yeah, before we got, because I had interrupted my sleeping.
Yeah, I think she missed. So there was this lady that was feeding the pigeons and the seagulls, and it was really entertaining. With the seagulls, she had names for all the different seagulls, and she's like, "Oh, here," like, and then they would jump up and grab the food that she was. So Sharlene missed out on that one.
I'm okay with missing out on that part. Yeah, I slept. It was one of those naps where you wake up and you're like, where am I? And then had to kind of snap back into it. And we made our way onto the boat.
Day 2, trying to see if we can get to see these lighthouses on the boat.
And we got on the boat, started the tour the same way as the day before. So it was a little deja vu.
Yes.
About to go.
And then we got out there and we saw our first lighthouse, and it was awesome. Yay.
We were like, it's finally vintage.
Yeah, and so that tour went amazing. We got to see some porpoises. We didn't see any whales, unfortunately, but
We
the
were
whales.
saying dolphins, and we were corrected.
Yeah, they look like dolphins, but they're porpoises.
Oh no. They're porpoises, not dolphins.
Yeah, so we saw those. We
Yeah.
saw some seals. We saw a lot of different birds. We saw bald eagle. We saw a lot of water.
Tons of water.
Saw some lobster boats. A lot of little lobster buoys. So every lobster fisherman has like their own buoy color or design, which is kind of cool. So like when you're out there, you'll see all kinds of
All
different
the
colors,
traps,
which are linked to the traps. So that was kind of cool to see. No whales, but they have like a separate tour that goes a little further out in the bay where the whales typically are. But they have seen them on those tours before, so we were like, oh, maybe we'll see one. But unfortunately, we did not. Saw a ton of lighthouses on that tour, which was kind of our goal. So, and some of them you can actually rent out. I think one of them you can
Stay
stay
overnight, yeah.
at. So that's kind of
Experience made.
So there's one of the lighthouses.
And then after that tour, we got back and we explored more of Bar Harbor.
Yep, we explored more of Bar Harbor, and we of course could not leave Maine without getting a famous lobster roll.
Alright, what did you get?
Captain John's Fish Fiesta.
So we got a lobster roll here. It's got lobster, corn, French fries.
Alright, take bites. What does it taste like?
Tastes like lobster. Corn and toasted buns. A little bit of butter, but not a lot of flavor. I don't know.
And Joe was actually very surprised how expensive a lobster roll is.
Yeah, I was thinking like, if we're in Maine where that stuff is caught fresh, that it wouldn't be too bad. But it was still kind of pricey.
And it was one of the places that was recommended. It's called Getty's.
Yeah.
One of the main places in that area.
How was it? Tasty? Messy?
I mean, it did taste super fresh, so.
It wouldn't be a Shar and Joe trip without lots of ice cream.
Ice cream, you scream, we all scream for ice cream.
Sharlene had to get her ice cream, so we're getting some from utter heaven.
So we ended up finding an ice cream shop and we got a flight of different flavors, which was so yummy.
Super delicious, yeah. Yeah, I think we lucked out on the one we picked. I think I just Googled ice cream shops and
saw it was
bingo.
close on the way, and we went.
Yep.
We're trying first.
Butter pecan, I think.
That is very
Maple
cute.
one.
It looks like a flight of ice creams.
Yes. This is a maple, a lot of maple. Good. Buttery pecan. Nice, refreshing sorbet. And lavender. Forgot the lavender is in the sorbet. Taste that.
I had this place that wasn't really part of our original itinerary, but I had it on our map because someone had photos of like starfish, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool, like these pink starfish. It's called Tidal Falls Preserve, and so since we had a little bit of time left in our day, but not enough to go like super far, we went over there. It's basically where the river starts to meet the ocean.
Lots of rocks to go through.
It took a while. Like, we didn't think there was any starfish there at first.
Yeah, we were hunting.
We saw tons of clams.
So many clams. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, I don't know if they were native or if they're invasive species or whatever, but I mean, I don't know my clams, so,
Right.
but they were just all over the shoreline.
Right.
And it was kind of like a little bit lower tide at that point. I think that was part of the problem with the starfish. Is I think when the tide starts to lower, they start to move and kind of make sure they stay in the water, kind of thing. I didn't even know like starfish moved.
Migrated.
I mean, yeah, so they do move around a decent amount, not very fast. But I did end up finding one. It was missing a little bit of its legs. I guess predators bite them off, or maybe people. I don't know.
Got injured.
Got injured somehow. Maybe the clam cut it. I don't know.
I didn't know.
So I did find one, and then later on there was some other people there, and they're like, oh yeah, there was a bunch from here earlier, and then they went out and like found some more for us. So that was kind of cool to see. Beautiful area to kind of hang out, real peaceful again.
Right, and we did have some downtime, like Joe was saying. So I guess either Joe or I asked a guy that was there, and he was pretty friendly, if he knows anywhere close by that we could check out.
Yeah, so he gave us a couple recommendations, and we checked out one of them, which
was Marlboro Beach.
Yep.
Which we drove over there.
It's called Marlboro Beach. Tongue tie. Marlboro Beach.
We hung out by the water for a little bit. I sat on a log and we just looked out on the waves. It was still a bit chilly, so we didn't stick around too long, but it was nice and very peaceful.
And after that, we made our way back to Bangor. We had a few places in mind that we wanted to see. The weather was kind of so-so. I think it was kind of misty, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so the first stop that we made in Bangor was...
Found another person taller than me.
This Paul Bunyan statue. So super tall. I like tall art.
I wonder why.
After that, we explored a little bit of downtown. We didn't get too crazy, but some beautiful churches. The waterfront is kind of nice. And then after that, we just called it a night.
Yep.
Because we got up super early that day.
Right. We were happy to get some rest. Yeah. Next day began with
not waking up early. No, we got up pretty early still. Not before the crack of dawn. But the next day we got up and we made our way over to the capital of Maine. Do you guys know what that is?
Uh-oh. Trivia.
No, not trivia. So Augusta, Maine is where the capital is. And so it was kind of a little bit of a misty morning, I believe, again. I just got out and kind of walked around the park across from the Capitol, got a few photos, and then jumped back in the car. Yeah, so after we visited the main State House, we drove over to
the Androscoggin
Swinging Bridge.
You might be pronouncing that incorrectly.
Yeah, so that's near Brunswick, and it's kind of a cool bridge. Hung out there a little bit. I took my drone over the water, and actually there's another bridge that we went by which has a dam and has some cascades, some waterfalls. That's a Frank J. Wood Bridge. I don't think it's made out of wood though. But anyways, and I think they're renovating it actually too, so that was going on. But kind of picturesque too. There's some older buildings and seeing the water.
Nice area to walk around that's like off the beaten path a little bit from what you would expect.
Yeah. And I don't know if she pronounced it right, so sorry if you're from Maine and you butchered it. But yeah, so after that, we went to see Garmin, which inside of Garmin, they have
the Earthaglobe.
Yep.
And so here comes my good old notes.
Yeah, the Earthaglobe is a massive globe.
It's huge, right?
It's the largest globe in the world.
Okay, hold on. Don't steal my thunder. The Earthaglobe, world's largest rotating and revolving globe. It was first located within the former headquarters of the DeLorme Mapping Corporation, but Garmin purchased the company and building in 2016, so not even that long
so
ago.
They stole it.
No,
yeah.
but it's not even that long ago.
Yeah.
I thought it was like way back. One globe weighs approximately 5,600 pounds and has a diameter of over 41 feet.
Yeah, and they apparently just made some updates. Like it shows like the topography, and like at first glance, like it doesn't look like it's super detailed, but when you get up real close to it, it is very detailed. And I think they may even keep adding to it over time.
Yeah, and it was, I mean, it was just their actual building. Like people were there eating lunch, and
you know, you just walk in. We walked up to the second floor to get our perspective of it, and it's really cool. Yeah, so after we spent a little bit of time by the globe, we drove through Portland over to Portland Head Light. And this is probably the most picturesque lighthouse in Maine, or one of them.
Was it the Forrest Gump?
No.
Oh, not yet.
No, we never went to Forrest Gump, unfortunately.
Yeah, so there is.
there is. I really wanted to go, but it's kind of off.
Yeah.
You know, there's not much else out where that one is, but in the movie Forrest Gump, when he runs across the country, like that's the end point that he ends up at. The one we went to was a little bit foggy on the water when we first arrived, and there's another lighthouse on Ram Island, and we could see it in the distance, and it was like really cool because it was just barely peeking out when we first got there out of the fog, and then it started to clear up. But so you kind of get a 2-for-1 at that place too. The nice thing about this lighthouse is there's a bunch of different vantage points. Each one of the vantage points like is really cool in itself. There's a lot of beautiful flowers that they put around this lighthouse, so that's why it's probably one of the more photographed ones. I don't think we hit it at the prime time of the year for flowers, but
and just talk about a little bit the time of year that we went. That we like to go off season. It was, you know, summer. It wasn't when the peak fall leaves. So if you're looking for the fall foliage,
probably
then you
go
a little later. But if you want a little bit of the warmer weather, which you can do some of the hikes and see different things, it'll be a little bit off season, so not as busy as when the prime fall foliage is out. Foliage is out. But just to talk about the fog, so I researched that, and Joe interrupted my story because he didn't want me to give away what it was. So apparently that time of year in the summer, just so you guys know, in case you go that time of year, you might have this fog problem that we did. the warm air and the cold Atlantic creates that fog. And so it can be a tricky time of year to go.
Yeah, so we spent a little bit of time there just because it was so picturesque. After we were done at the lighthouse, we made one more stop on our way out. There's another place called Ship Cove, a little beach, and we just pulled in there just to see, and I jumped out of the car right away because there actually was a little ship kind of going by Ship Cove, so that was kind of neat to see. And then after we left there, we went to Spring Point Ledge Lighthouse. I think I got that in the right order. So that's kind of a nice little lighthouse. Again, part of like a fort that's nearby, and it's kind of unique because you could actually walk out to the lighthouse. There was like rocks that you kind of had to skip across. There's cracks in between.
I do remember that. That was really fun.
What did you like best about this spot?
I liked walking up along the rocks all the way down to the lighthouse and just kind of meandering through.
And the cool part was when we got there, a cruise ship like passed by like a couple minutes later, so that was kind of cool to watch.
Yeah. You could walk up to the lighthouse just skipping on that rock trail. Don't fall between the cracks.
Yeah, you could pretty much walk. You just had, it's kind of like don't step on the crack or you break your mother's back kind of thing.
Tell Carter to lean into that.
And then we went over to Old Port. So we went into Portland, parked the car, and it's really a walkable area. So we walked down to the area where they have the cobblestone streets and the brick sidewalks. Is really cool. Like, very picturesque.
Very picturesque area. And just be sure when it came to parking, I did some homework, and there's areas where it's free parking. So, you know, certain parts of the city can be tricky. So just keep that in mind. But yes, walking down was beautiful. The shops were so cute and eclectic. So I really
a lot of little
that.
shops, some restaurants that you could try. And we didn't stick around too long because we were going on another boat ride.
Where are we headed next?
Bath.
We're gonna take a bath?
I need one, but no, we're going to take a boat tour in Bath, Maine. Yeah, so this boat ride was it started on the Kennebec River.
In Bath, Maine.
In Bath, Maine. And it was actually starting at a maritime museum, which we didn't plan to go into the museum or spend time there, but I think that was a pretty nice museum. I think we missed out.
Right.
The outside of the grounds was really beautiful too.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of people that went to the museum first that were on our boat ride, and we got on the boat. It wasn't as big of a boat because it was one that had to go up and down the river.
So if you want to be on the top level, which is a lot better in my opinion.
For the views, because the lower level is like right on the water. It's still not like a bad view, and it's enclosed. So like if it's not a great day, it's probably better to be down there. Made it to the top deck. Ready for takeoff.
We barely made it.
Barely made it.
Last few seated.
But yeah, again, we lucked out kind of getting in the back, not in the middle end seat kind of thing. Yeah, we got a little tour down the river, and I don't know if you've ever been on like a history type boat tour, but man, they do a great job. They tell you all these little facts that you wouldn't really know if you're not from the area. So
right, I really enjoyed that tour, and I actually preferred it more than the bigger boat tour that I think a lot of tourists usually go on. So if you really want to do something that's a little bit more historic, and we are not like museum people or like big into like so much history, but it was just really interesting, and it was just a smaller atmosphere. You could actually hear what the guy was saying.
Yeah, you could ask questions
without the big engine and all the, you know, wind.
Yeah, the wind blowing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so these lighthouses were a little bit smaller because most of them were on the river, so they don't need to be like massive. The whole point of lighthouses is so that boats can navigate when there's a lot of fog or inclement weather. They can see those lights and they know where they need to turn so they don't run ashore. A lot of cool ones, like there was one that I really liked where there was like two that were kind of one in the front, one in the back, and like just how those lights are lined up. When the boat's coming up the river, they know kind of where they gotta go. So it was really cool to hear the history of those lighthouses, to see them kind of more up close, since like a lot of them you can't even see from the land, like you'd have to be in a boat.
Yeah. And it was an interesting story, even how the boat tour guy got his job. Like, that was funny. He just worked, volunteered at the museum for a long time, no interest, well, not no interest, but like didn't know he had the potential to actually be a boat, you know, tour driver, and it just like turned into this dream job for him. So he was really passionate about it. And we saw a lot of wildlife. He was there like pointing out,
yeah,
like,
they were,
look over there, look over there.
They were really spot
there's
on.
some porpoise, there's this, and you know, you had to do like, is it military time where it's like 12 o'clock or like, how do you
I don't think
it?
It was military time.
Or not
just,
military time, but
yeah,
like,
just like, hey, at 6 o'clock there's a bald eagle, and there was a lot of bald eagles on this tour.
oh, yeah.
I know there's other parts of the country where there's a lot more. I think the Everglades, I think, is the highest concentration, but the amount of bald eagles was kind of surprising to me. A lot of other types of birds, a lot of them I don't even know what they were.
Porpoises.
Definitely some seals and...
Oh yes, we did see seals, and that was really fun to see that. We didn't see any whales, but we did see seals.
Yeah, no, yeah, this tour went a little bit out into the ocean and then, or into the bay. Ready for some more fog?
No, no, please.
Every time we go on a lighthouse tour.
And they are trying to protect the nests from being scavenged.
How are you liking the tour?
I had to tell Joe to sit his little butt down since he was about to fall.
Didn't want anybody to go overboard. And then went back up the river. On the return trip, we went under this bridge. Going under
And
the
in the
bridge.
early years,
It's kind of a cool story. So there was an eagle's nest up there on the top, and they had to do some renovation to the bridge, I believe, right? And so they actually they took the nest down during the renovation, and then
when they were done building painting the bridge, they stuck their nest back on top.
Yeah, so they were really careful about that.
yeah, and once we got past that bridge, we kind of made it down the home stretch, and there's actually a very historic like shipbuilding yard, and it's still active. Like they're building these massive like military style ships.
It was incredible. They build those on the water, which I didn't know, but it makes sense for something so massive. So they, you know, they have this whole process that he explained to us that I can't remember right now.
Yeah, well, I think it does start inside, and then they kind of move them out onto the water to do all the finishing.
Yeah.
It's quite the operation, and the details of these ships is just incredible.
And it was a nice surprise because we didn't expect to see that, and it was very picturesque.
Yeah, yeah, it was a great end to the tour, and we pulled in. Love the tour?
Yeah.
2,000.
I already ate half of it.
What you got?
Blueberry crisp. Gotta keep it with the main theme.
And made our way back to the hotel for the night.
Yeah. Call it a night.
Yeah. On our final day, last half a day in Maine, what are we up to? We were really thinking about doing that Forrest Gump lighthouse, but it was so far and the weather was kind of iffy, so I was like, I don't know if we want to go all the way out there and then, you know, can't even see it kind of thing. So we decided to explore more Bangor, and the first thing that we did was go to Stephen King's residents.
Yeah, so Joe pulls up, and the weather actually wasn't that great, but also I'm not into horror at all. Stephen King's not my thing.
Yeah, but it was very...
So when you look at it, I feel like I'm looking at a haunted mansion. I see crows out, like, outside.
The crows they're cawing.
And the gate, and literally crows were outside.
There was a crow that flew right by the house. It's kind of eerie.
You can hear him.
And the gate has this intricate kind of haunted house detailing. I'm just like, okay, why do we need to stop here? Joe went out, of course, because, you know, he wanted to get...
No, it was a cool house. Yeah, it was a cool house. We didn't stick around too long, but definitely very Stephen King.
Right, and it was in like a regular neighborhood, so I'm like, I wonder, like, I want to hear, like, if people like try to go into the house during Halloween or like...
Yeah, I wonder how trick-or-treating is.
Yeah, I'm curious because it's just a regular neighborhood. All the other houses are normal.
They're big houses in that neighborhood, but yeah.
But so I'm just curious about that part of it. But yes, I didn't exit the car, and that was fine with me.
Yeah, and then we kind of went downtown a little bit more. There's a little park there and some cool restaurants and things.
Who are you talking to?
This guy's actually holding the bench up with maybe his wife.
And then we went to this little park. It has like a man-made fountain.
So we made it over to this park. It's raining, as you can probably see on the lens. I wanted to see this fountain, but I guess it's not on yet, or it's under construction. But
there's like a waterfall, very narrow, but it was kind of cool. It like had 2 tiers to it.
We walked around a little bit, and it was, you know,
it was a little bit rainy at that point too, so we didn't stick around too long, but it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Setting you up for what?
Oh, it's setting you up for drama. Like people climbed up there, but I don't think there's anything up there.
I'm gonna go up there and check it out anyway.
Let me know what's up there. What's up there? Parking lot? Worth the climb?
Yeah, you wanna try?
No.
Why not?
I'm lazy.
This whole day we were kind of making it up a little bit as we go, and the next stop was someplace that we had on our list if we had time, but we weren't sure with how foggy and rainy it was if we'd actually go to it.
I don't know if we'll go to the fort because it's very hazy out there. Lots of rain. You can barely see across to it. Very misty.
So there's like a fort. It's called Fort Knox. Not the one where they have all the gold.
Yeah, not the same thing.
And then there's a bridge which has like one of the towers you can actually go up in.
So there's an observation point at the top of one of those towers. You can see all the windows up there. I don't know if you'll see much on a day like today though.
Yes,
and of course, like when we got there at first, like it was so foggy, like if you went up there, probably didn't have much of a view of anything.
Right, right. And so it was very intriguing because I could imagine if on a clear day how it would be stunning views, but we figured it wasn't worth the time and effort of going up there.
Yeah, so that was Penobscot Bridge. When we first got there, there was a ship like across the water from the bridge in the fort, and I figured it was gonna just be there all day, but when we came back later that day, it was gone. So that was kind of interesting.
You guys see the fort over there? What do you do when you're on a trip and things don't go to plan? Bad weather, something's not open, closed.
You make a new plan.
Make a new plan.
We saw there was another lighthouse. We're like, oh, we're gonna get one more in today anyways.
It's clearing up a little bit, but we're gonna head down to a different lighthouse and then come back and hopefully it's a little better.
So we went to another lighthouse. It took us a little longer because one of the roads was closed. That was kind of the straight shot. So we had to go a little bit longer. Saw that lighthouse.
So we're winding down our trip and this is our last lighthouse, unfortunately.
It's pretty cool, but I feel like the ones from the water were the best lighthouses.
Right,
So I
but
would
driving
recommend.
through that area was kind of interesting.
Yeah, you got to see like what the typical homes were like, and there was an old church building which was really cool. After that, we made our way back to the bridge. I did a little more drone footage, but we're like, yeah, we don't really have a lot of time left, and it still wasn't like super clear where you could see far out in the distance, so we decided not to go up into the bridge. But if you do go on a clear day, I think it's a nice view.
Last time crossing the bridge. Last sightseeing, we're heading to the gas station. And we're done with Maine, back to Chicago. See the babies.
And that was kind of it. We made our way back to the airport probably a little bit early, returned the rental car, and
yeah, because we weren't sure like with the drama of the rental car what we might experience coming back.
on the way in, yeah. So it went smooth. You know, we just had to throw our keys in the thing and board our flight, and
we were happy to be home.
Happy to be home, happy to see the kids.
And they were happy to see us. We had a really good time overall. I think Maine is great for a short trip like what we did. There's more than enough to see for a short 3-day getaway.
Yeah, I would say if you want to see a good chunk of Maine, do like a 4-day or 5-day trip, because we usually really pack our itineraries tight. If you want to explore a little bit more of Acadia, for example, like you could spend probably 2 days there if you wanted to.
Yeah.
We kind of just hit some of the highlights and moved on. But if you really want to get it out there and do the hikes and spend more time kind of sitting at each location or hang out at a beach, then I would say maybe go there 2 days.
Thanks again for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed another one of our trips, and we hope to share more of our trips in the future. Thanks again for subscribing, and if you haven't subscribed, go ahead and do so. Like and comment and share these videos. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, and just get out there yourselves. Get out there, travel, take your friends and your family, and enjoy the time that you have.
Right. It doesn't have to be long distance. It could just be like a staycation, something close by. We've done a lot of those too. But just making those memories and having fun, getting out there in nature is always a good thing.
True or false? When our sun dies, it will become a black hole.
False.
That is correct. The sun to reach the earth.
Probably sort of on the camera and heads inside.
Really? I'm gonna go with C.
That is correct.